Alright, and if we click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, join the Telegrams for Channel and Coffee, the various other links. So, what is happening with incels versus cat ladies? The peak Weimar battle. It's like pushing deck chairs around the Titanic. We need to organize it this way. It's like, this ship is sinking, guys. This is not the time. This is not the time to fight amongst ourselves. What are you talking about? This is super important. We got to focus on pronouns. No, we really don't. They want us to focus on pronouns, and they want us fighting amongst ourselves. We don't. The funniest thing in the world was some black supremacy group was marching in Georgia, and they were marching. It was an open carry event, and they were marching around. And they go, "Oh, we want the Kathleen Kennedy Club to come out here and attack us," and they're like. Or other white groups, it's kind of time thinking. People think like, why would they? You're doing an open carry event. We like open carry also. Why? Like, we're on the side of the Constitution, right? It's like, they have built this straw man in their head. It's so friggin' bizarre. It's like, where did you get these ideas from? Oh, the globalist media propaganda told me to hate you people. Oh, is it possible that's just globalist media propaganda, that they just foment discord so white and black can fight amongst themselves? I'm not saying they're ever going to be best friends, but look around. Always look for propaganda, and always look to see, like, are we being manipulated? Who benefits? And follow the money. Anyway, it's so easy to get off on tangents. Live streams would probably be very, very spicy, but have to be immediately deleted afterwards. So what is happening with incels versus cat ladies? So I was reading the comments in this article. The original article actually doesn't matter too much. She was throwing grenades in every direction. She was making fun of everybody, it turns out. But it started a conversation that kind of got my ears perked up a little bit, because it kind of felt like this argument of incels versus cat ladies. And, they're calling dudes incels. It's like, it doesn't quite have the same sting to it, because they're it's not exactly incel, meaning involuntary celibate. It's kind of more voluntary celibate, because they're guys. There's this big group of guys who come home from work and play video games, and you go, oh, they're incels. Not really. They're more like they don't want to do what is necessary to go out there and meet chicks. Either they're shy guys, or for whatever reason. A lot of it is just shy, and it's like they don't want to just overcome that burden of going out there and meeting chicks and, starting to eat right and putting away the video games and the porn and, like, taking part in that aspect of a fully adult sexual life with the idea of getting married and having kids. So they're not incels so much as they're just, like, without societal pressure to tell them to go meet girls, get married, have kids, they're willing to just kind of sit it out. So it doesn't quite have the same sting. And also because guys have been crapped on their whole lives, which is why guys, when they do overcome the crucible, they come up, like, why guys are kind of better at everything. It doesn't matter if it's engineering to research science to pieces of music or some new mathematics. It's because they've been crapped on their whole lives, where by the time you're coming up with an idea that you finally have some faith in it, like, you've been used to having people criticize your ideas your whole life from the very start, where women are kind of a little bit more protected. So, like, as a result, like, a lot of guys, there's a certain percentage of guys on one end of the spectrum who just get destroyed by that criticism, but the guys who can overcome it, like, they're the guys who are coming up with new research in, applications in chemistry and things like this, because they're able to overcome that crucible, where women kind of just don't. That's why you don't see their same names on, at postdoc type of research. It's like, because guys get there and merit and kind of don't. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. So, incel, so the incel versus cat lady incel, I'm kind of seeing that, like, you're calling these guys incels, it doesn't quite have the same sting for a bunch of different reasons I just said. The other thing is, when you call the women, like, the wine-drinking cat ladies, it does have a sting to it, and you can see on Twitter and other various social media accounts where they do get pissed off by that, because they don't want to be wine-drinking cat moms. Because if they did, like, if they just wanted to be single women their whole lives, it wouldn't have a sting to it. It does have a sting to it because they kind of got robbed by this whole globalist machinations that have been going on since post-war. So it was the comments in this article that kind of got me thinking. Okay, so I'm reading the comments. People are fighting, and chicks seem to be more triggered. So here's what happened post-World War II, is when this kind of really, really kicked into overdrive, is the globalists were pushing feminism, socialism, women's lib, all that kind of left-wing nonsense. what happened was it lowered white birth rates and it forced women to work. And they had abortions and birth control and divorce. Generally, it made it very easy to go away from overcoming struggle and making a marriage work and like hanging through those tough times because you know this too will pass, which is what happened in the past, to just walking away from things and being single and not bothering to overcome things. And then the thing is, by the time people hit their 40s, or for women, they probably hit 35, 38, and they realize like, oh, this was all a lie the whole time. Well, by that time, it's too late. But all that stuff happened, lowering white birth rates. The globalists controlled publishing that told white women not to have kids. And it's like, but the publishing went to everyone. Well, yeah, but it resonates only with certain people. I'll explain why later. Or they told them, have kids, sleep around, focus on your orgasm. Your woman's orgasm is the most important thing. Your pleasure is of primary importance. And, in the biological sense, that's not a priority, but globalists control the media, and they slowly changed women from being mothers into they pushed this idea of the glamorous single working woman who slept around, or that's what they kind of tried to portray in magazines and later TV shows, this fabulous working woman who seems to have all this free time to date around. It's like, no, now she's just a wage slave instead of being a slave who's raising children. It's like, admittedly, it's a tough life either way, but at the end of one equation, you have kids and grandkids, and the end of the other equation, you made a banker wealthy. So, like, guess which one the bankers were promoting. Anyway, so what happened with single women, hey, sleep around. It's glamorous. It's like, yeah, being a single mom isn't really that glamorous, like at all. So simultaneously, they opened the borders with zero-skill workers came flooding in, and those workers also had very high birth rates, and they gave them citizenship. Thanks, 14th Amendment. It's like, or the Supreme Court justices that interpreted the 14th Amendment that way. And then welfare, and required the women to work. What went from being an option went to being a necessary part of the economy because the dollar started to get devalued and housing costs skyrocketed. You bring in a lot of low-skill workers, yes, the dollar gets devalued, and housing goes up because they need a place to stay. So what happened with those low-skill workers? Well, you made the wealthy business owners wealthy, but keep in mind that's like 1% of the nation. You give up a nation of one people for the benefit of a very small 1%. And nobody, in 1965 Hart-Celler Act, nobody recognized it for the long-scale evil that it was. And they just, like, that's how you boil the frog slowly, these incremental changes into globalism. A $20,000 house in my area is over $1 million now. The house didn't change in 50 years. The dollar did. Feminism gave women the option to work, but opening the borders made that a requirement. Combine that with globalist controlled media that sold women on this idea of you can have a nice house, cars, a picket fence, nice, safe neighborhood. It's like, what is it? What are the demographics of that nice, safe neighborhood? A nice, comfortable life that because of the changing economy, the average man was not capable of providing. Magazines brainwashed women into overvaluing themselves. There's no nice way to say that without sounding like some weirdo MGTOW type of person, which I'm definitely not, because anything that lowers white birth rates is a tool of the globalists, while simultaneously telling them to sleep around, destroying their real value. The valuable things a woman has is her virginity, her DNA, and her ability to be a good wife and mother. That is her peak value. But magazines told her to sleep around and destroy that one primary importance of value, the one thing that can't be replaced. When it's gone forever. A commodity loses value when it's passed around. Sex isn't special. You're not special if you bend over for everyone. Why would you buy a car when the milk is free? Since World War, and like this honest, basic, crude talk people seem to, like, this all seemed to end in the 80s and 90s with political correctness, and people kind of lived in this fantasy land, and which resulted in 32-year-old women who are realizing, like, oh, I'm never going to get married and have kids. Like, that's just off the table now. I'm 32. It's like you might see yourself as a certain way, but the market sees you in a different way because you've been lied to your whole life by globalist publishers. Since World War II, the media in general, and women's magazines in specific, that's a whole nother study. You could do a study on women's magazines, but the funny thing is, you wouldn't be able to do it in any college or university because it has much deeper, darker implications. They've destroyed white women. They were the majority of the female population, and the message was aimed very effectively at them. And it worked. White birth rates dropped and are continuing to drop every year. Eventually, in a decade or two, you're going to have an America that is a Mexican majority. Which, is it good or bad? Well, people leave Mexico to come to the United States. People don't leave the United States to go to Mexico. So you can take that for what it is. So the reason the insult of the wine drinking cat moms kind of stings these women, or I don't know how old they are, when they start kind of like becoming aware that there is such a thing as a marketplace value. And like, I don't know when that click kicks in for women, maybe 28, 30 is kind of a magic number for a lot of women, is because the women from like 24 to 34 have this biological clock that is ticking. You can't make that clock go away. The magazines tell them to sleep around, and they do, but with every increase in the body count, they change. They're not as special, and men, in their eyes, kind of become fungible because they are. They're just trading out one man for another man. And the same thing happens in the reverse with men. Women just kind of become, fungible cum dumpsters. So as the years go by, or for women, they call men fuckboys. And like, if you're calling a guy a fuckboy, or even calling a woman a cum dumpster, it probably means that you're single, and that's probably not going to change because you've become a pawn in the battle of the sexes, and you're fighting other pawns instead of looking at the puppet masters who are playing the game or playing you for pawns. So as the years go by, they think about getting married and having kids, but they encounter a little problem. The men are not asking them for their hand in marriage. So what happened to the other side of the equation is the pressure came off the men to get married, and without that pressure, they'll come home from work and play video games or get on the internet and get on Telegram, whatever, and that's it. The guys on the shy end of the spectrum will just not even bother dating. They just kind of like, oh, it'd be a nice thought, but I'd have to get rid of all this stuff, start eating right, maybe get a little exercise, and start talking to people. Like, I could do a video on how to start that process. It'd be like a 3-part video, but I don't think it would be politically correct. But one of the things is, one, eating right. 2, for guys, is learning to talk to other guys. Like, I just want to get laid. I don't talk to chicks. No. You start by learning how to talk to other guys and make other guys feel comfortable. And then you can branch out in other chicks. And really, the thing is, if you're a guy who makes other guys feel comfortable, you talk to them, you make them feel valued, women will see you as the center of this male sphere, and they'll be attracted to you. And I say this from experience because I had a friend of mine who's not very good looking, but he was Mr. Social. And there's a lot of things that I don't know if he could teach you these things, but someone observing him could teach you these things. That skill of learning, if you're a guy, learning how to talk to men first before you branch out into women. Anyway, the other end is the guy who will sleep around, sometimes with more than one girl at a time, because the milk is free. Feminism is an excuse to say, marriage is this old-fashioned, patriarchal, whatever. It's like, we can mimic feminist talking points also. Do we believe it? It doesn't matter if we believe it or not. We don't take feminism seriously because deep down, we know if women are going down that road, we don't take women seriously who are going down that road. We take women seriously in the areas of expertise that they have expertise in, which is being a wife and mother and raising kids and social networking, those kind of things. But when she's going down the feminist road, using all these insane talking points, we can use the same talking points against her. It's like, oh, we don't want to support the patriarchy. Getting married is just like fascism or something. Bend over and be my cum dumpster and like fight the power. It's like, oh, okay, women's liberation. But in the back of her mind, she's kind of thinking, oh, wait, I kind of would like to get married and have kids and like have some stability, and I'll just be a cum dumpster for my 20s and 30s. the thing is, the guy believes in free pussy, and women come and go, but there's no pressure on them to get married. And without social pressure, a woman can't pressure a guy into marriage anymore. Guys, they need social pressure as well as women need social pressure. So this guy from 20 to 50, he's sleeping around. And I don't want to say he's sort of got a harem of girls, because it kind of takes the agency off the women. Women have agency. They can manage their own lives without, like, you're not just a plaything. You're voluntarily engaging in this behavior. You don't have to take part in it. So these guys sort of have a harem of girls. They're wasting their youth with a guy who either won't get married, or he'll just, retire from the dating game at 50, and then he'll go spend his time on social media or reading or doing whatever. He'll just drop out of that dating pool. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter. He's out of the equation. Or he might settle down. The thing is, he can only marry one girl. So the rest of the women who are buzzing around him, they're wasting their peak youth attractive years, and they're giving away their valuable possessions, their virginity, and then after that, sex and their youth. Don't believe globalist propaganda. Your virginity and youth are your peak value to a man. If you want to get married and have kids, you have to see it through a man's eyes. A goofy 18-year-old is way more value than a 30-year-old with a PhD. It means nothing to most men. The globalist women's magazines are lying to women so that they can lower white birth rates. Once you take that model, the goal of lower white birth rates, and you overlay that model on a globalist media behavior, everything makes sense. What scientific method? Are you able to correctly predict behavior? Are you able to map the real world to the mathematical equations? Yes, then you're probably onto something. You should continue further research. No, don't read those books. No, don't go down that path. Why? Our side says the truth doesn't fear investigation. You can read any book you want. The books that say we're the bad guys and the books that say we're the good guys. Read them both, and unfettered access to any material on earth. You can make up your own mind. The best computer is between your ears. So what happens is what they wanted to happen. They make women overvalue themselves and devalue the things that matter, virginity and youth. What women bring to the table primarily is going to be virginity and youth. That is the start. Everything after that is a bonus. Your sense of humor and intelligence, that's great, but that's like 10% of it. Age and virginity is 80 to 90% of it. That's just the way of the world. You can't get around that hardwired biology. So now you got a bunch of increasingly pissed off women. These comments go on and on and on, who are 30 and Chad never asked her to marry because she wasn't judging herself accurately. And she listened to the globalist vermin in the media who told her to give away her most valuable possessions for free. Her youth and ability to have kids. And it's all kind of wrapped up in sex to a young man. And then as the men get older, they realize it's like sex and reproduction is all kind of wrapped up, but you're using one to get the other. It's like, yes, it's a marketplace. You might as well, it's better to have people be crude and 100% honest with you, so at least you have their honest opinion of the facts as presented. So then you can take that and make your own decision. If you want to be a single cat mom forever, great. Most women don't want that. You should be, looking for a partner when you're in high school, or honestly, you'd be America would be better off, or at least the European brand of America, in creating some kind of like arranged marriage system. But you usually need a system in place to do that, an internal system like the Amish or Mormons or something like that. And the globalists who are running the rest of the nation look at that and they get very, very nervous about any time European Americans or Europeans in general start to have groups with only Europeans in it. That's why they work very, very hard to break up any association. That's why the controlled ops is so powerful. Anyway, so what happened with these women is they voluntarily turned themselves into a cum dumpster. Instead of women kind of finding its kind of its own level, the average woman, she thinks she's an 8, but reality knows that she's a 6, and you can't change that. So they show women's magazines, Health magazine from a couple of years ago. It was one of the Kardashian girls who in the magazine, she was like, I don't know, like 30 or 40, but she was shredded. She was down to like 15% body fat. She looked great. She's in a tank top on the cover. And then a couple of years later, they show a current issue of Health magazine, and the woman's 200 pounds and obese, and she's wearing a tank top. It's like, this is the issue of Health magazine. No, what you should do is, one, look at who wrote the article. Two, look at who owns the magazine, and then magazines are usually owned in publishing collectives. So then look at who owns the publishing collective, and then step back one stage further and look at who is financing it, what groups are financing. Oh, owned by the Rothschilds, or it's a subsidiary of the Rothschilds and George Soros. But you get the idea. Where's it going with this? So the woman who sees herself as an 8, but reality, the real world, knows she's a 6, so she's not good enough to marry Chad. She's only good enough to be essentially his fuckhole, no offense. She would have been better off ignoring the Chads who are, say 8s, or 9s, or 10s, and focusing on the male 6s. But the magazines poisoned her mind and told her that she was a diva and she needed to, I don't know, travel. You got to travel the world, and you need to be wined and dined. The average guy doesn't give 2 shits about that for very good reason. You would have been better off making a magazine telling the average person how to get married as virgins and build. Oh, virginity, it's so old-fashioned. So the woman who wrote this magazine article, did you marry? Oh, I'm not going to go down that path. That's another deep rabbit hole that is friggin' hysterical to go down. The hypocrisy. There's a woman who did this dating site thing, and she was outraged. She's a globalist chick. She was outraged that white women were preferring to date, men of European descent. And then someone did a little looking behind the scene of this woman, globalist woman, who ran the dating site, and she wanted to have white women dating non-European men. And it turns out she married a globalist man. So it's okay for her, but it's not okay for a European woman. Why is that? It's like the hypocrisy is right in your face, and most people just don't step back and say, "Oh, so who are these people? What? Like, let's take a little look into their experience. Like, what's their bias?" And you go, "Oh, they're anti-white globalists who want to lower white birth rates." Anyway, let me stop that path of argument right there, because I'm trying to put this on YouTube. It's like, you're not going to be on YouTube that long if you go down this pathway. So the whole wine and dine and world travel stuff's like, yeah, that's useless. That's just useless stuff. At the end of that pathway, I want to travel the world, be a single woman, travel the world. Okay, so at the end of that pathway, you've got photographs and videos of places that men built throughout history. But you're a single wine drinking cat mom. Oh, but I've got a following list on Twitter. Yeah, that's fucking worthless. The other pathway is a woman who just gets married and have kids. At the end of that pathway, she has grandkids and a family who loves her. Oh, but she didn't travel the world. Yeah, but she looked at your videos and photographs of places around the world. That's great. You went to Rome. That's fabulous. There's a civilization someone else built, 2,000 years ago. Good for you. You went to a place and you looked at bricks. I mean, it's amazing. Don't get me wrong. Travel's awesome if you can, you can do it in your retirement maybe. Do a little bit, but at the end of one pathway, you have kids and grandkids and great-grandkids if you're young enough, and the end of the other pathway, you have photographs of kind of other people's accomplishments. I mean, take whatever path you want, but don't let a globalist propagandize you to go down the one path when you really want to go down another path. You kind of need to teach your kids Latin and Greek and history, and to value the family and the extended family, and then your ethnic greater family. That sounds like something Hitler would say. Yes. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on Alt Media, Bit Chute, and Odyssey, and join the Telegram support channel on Coffee, and I'll see you guys next episode.